Hey everyone, I'm NornQueenAlexis and welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing a lore series. Lore series. So I've been requested a bunch of times to actually do some lore on the channel. Because if you join me for my live streams, you can literally ask me anything about the lore and I have a good understanding of it, or I just look it up. So with all that said, I just want to give you some insider knowledge about me. I have read a lot of books. I have read every single book of the Horus Heresy. I have read probably over 300 books from Games Workshop, and I've had almost every codex. But today, we are taking a look at the humble Lasgun. This is actually not the humble Lasgun, this is a long las, but it was the closest thing that I had. So we have a prop for this episode. Pew pew. So, the Lasgun, and I wanted to talk about this thing, because the Lasgun is one of my favorite weapons in all of sci-fi. A lot of 40k stuff has ridiculously out there weapons, armor, and equipment. And I did an entire series called Everything Wrong With up until, well, some of my fan base harassed my co-host off. That was mean. But anyway, I am not so easily swayed. Your heresy has no place under my righteous imperial. Anyway, let's get back to it. So the Lasgun, and why it's actually the standard issue gun in Warhammer 40k. The Lasgun is a semi-automatic rifle that fires at the speed of light. It is a tiny, tiny, tiny laser pointer that burns super hot. We're talking thousands of degrees. This thing has the ability to vaporize any and all water it hits along its way and from the target it hits. This means that if you were to get hit in your shoulder, like say right here, just boom, right there, this entire arm would just explode right off. You would not recover from it and you would die almost instantly from the amount of shock and blood loss. It's insane if it hits bare skin. But let's just say you have armor on, like a flak vest. Flak vests are very good at absorbing heat. That's their primary function, aside from being bulletproof and for the most part protect you from shrapnel. Think modern day military equipment, except it can absorb thousands of degrees. A lasgun will still burn through that, given enough shots, usually about 2, and it'll knock you on your ass and leave severe burns underneath it, but it will not cause vaporization, and you will be alive, but you'll be severely burnt. Now, the people in the Imperium, the normal people in the Imperium, can tank a lasgun shot if they're in armor, and be functional afterwards, which is insane, by the way. That would be like, oh, I just got 3rd degree burns all over my arm. I'm good. And just keep going. The people of the Imperium are absolutely insane. The fact that they can take that. But now, let's talk about some other issues. No, not other issues. Other parts and equipment that could be put onto this gun. As you can see, it has a sacred inscription, being the twin-headed eagle. Sacred inscriptions are more or less like things that make the machine spirit a bit happier, so the gun itself will fire better. Machine spirits are both an actual thing and a non-practical belief system. Sometimes weapons are possessed by machine spirits and thus can act on their own, but sometimes they can't. It really depends on the writer. But the other big things are the ammunition pack for a lasgun. Now this lasgun does have an extended mag. For a sniper rifle, it's kind of bad, but this is a Hotshot magazine. Now, I said a lot of big words, but what does all that mean? The standard charge pack for the lasgun itself can hold 100 rounds, or 50 rounds if you switch it to the maximal setting. There is also something called Hotshot. Hotshot was originally demonic possessed ammunition for the lasgun that was distributed amongst the stormtroopers. But that was retconned back in 2006, I believe, with 4th edition, where they got rid of the stormtroopers and replaced them with the Tempestus Scions going into the future of Warhammer 40k, so they didn't have, a huge legal problem. This was around the same time that they tried to sue Fox over the use of Space Marine. They lost, but kind of won, which was weird. They won for a few years until Fox took it seriously. Now, the other things about the rifle itself, let's go over what Maximal is. By the way, I have no script, and I am just doing this all off of memory. That's what this lore series is about. It's me rambling about random things that I know about Warhammer 40k lore. So, other things about this, Maximal settings. What is Maximal? Maximal is a much stronger shot, essentially a charged shot, that a lasgun can shoot. They switch to maximal settings when firing Marines or Marine equivalents. This would be things like fighting renegade robots, giant Tyranids, or Space Marines, or mutants, where they need to burrow through multiple parts of their body in order to get a kill shot, or they need to burrow through armor. Contrary to popular belief, lasguns can actually kill Space Marines. You just need a few dozen of them to hit in similar spots or go for joints. Joints are where the weakest part of Space Marine armor is, or just shoot them in the neck, or the head, because typically their heads are exposed, which is rather easy to deal with when you have a long las. Long lases, on the other hand, have the ability to just punch straight through the armor and kill the Space Marine outright. But we'll get to that in a future episode and why I absolutely adore the long las. Maximal settings are dangerous for the gun, so this is why they don't always put the weapon in maximal. Maximal will deteriorate the barrel of the gun, and the barrel of the gun is only good for a few thousand shots before it starts to warp and the weapon isn't functional. But that's why the weapon itself is actually really easy to change the barrel out, and they even bring extra barrels with them for requisitions for Imperial Guard, which I find to be absolutely fascinating, the fact that they know their problems and plan accordingly. Sometimes, not all the time. When it comes to the Imperium, if I ever say they always do something, there is always an exception. So always in this case, in this series, will mean most of the time. Okay? Okay, glad we got that out there. Now, other things about the gun. Why does it have a stock? The gun actually has no recoil whatsoever. The reason it has a stock is for a better aim. You can actually get this thing with a telescopic sight. There are multiple different types of sights in 40K. Telescopic, oh my god, what are they called? The omniscope, which can go into all different types of settings, such as infrared, night vision, see-through walls, and things of that nature. And I'm not even kidding, they actually have that technology. They just don't have it on a mass scale to issue it to everybody. Or you could just use iron sights. For me, I prefer a scope, but I'm also a person who prefers a sniper. But that's just me. But the average trooper will just use iron sights, and they will adjust their weapon to fit them for the most part. The Lasgun itself is a very balanced weapon and a pretty light weapon. It's comparable to the M4 in terms of weight. I could be wrong about that. It could be something of a heavier weapon. I always get those confused, but it is a pretty standard issue weight for a rifle. I'm going to say it like that, and I do apologize for it to be that vague. So please forgive me. I don't know the weights of all American guns. I'm not a typical American. So, yeah. Other things about the Lasgun that I personally enjoy, and why the Lasgun is chosen over the autogun. So the Lasgun itself fires faster than any type of supersonic ammunition that an autogun can fire. And we will get to why the autogun is actually better than a Lasgun in a future video. And we can talk about that and talk about all of its buffs over the Lasgun and why the Lasgun is actually more distributed. But we'll conquer that in this video. The las pack versus the ammunition pack of a auto weapon. Auto weapons typically hold 40 to 60 rounds, where a lasgun holds 100. So this is actually insane. Most guardsmen are issued with 600 rounds of ammunition and 2 grenades. Why every guardsman has a grenade is beyond me. That's extremely dangerous, but they decided to do that. They don't have any dedicated grenadier, which is weird considering the Death Corps Krieg have grenadiers, which are all demolition experts, and they all have grenades as well. But that's the Imperium for you. They have, what are the other things about this? It's 600 rounds of ammunition. It's a very quick weapon to swap. And we do want to talk about the fact that the weapons charge pack can actually be recharged via solar power. And yes, this gun was cracked in half, unfortunately. I still have to repair it. So, how can the gun be repaired? How can the gun be reloaded when you don't have extra ammunition on hand? Well, you can toss your charge pack into a fire. It can absorb the it absorbs the heat, which recharges the battery pack, which can then be reused. The reason that they don't tell you to do this is because the charge pack becomes unstable, and if you switch to a maximal setting, eventually you can actually detonate your entire gun into a rather severe explosion. So you'll be killing yourself if you throw your ammunition clip into the fire over and over and over again every night to recharge it, which is destabilizing its power core, and then you try to fire this thing a few thousand times afterwards. You will eventually, well, kill yourself and probably your teammate with you that's very close to you. But it can be done, and in extreme circumstances, or in circumstances where you know you're not being reinforced or given more requisition, it is something you can do, just don't do it often. The other thing is you can charge the charge pack via solar. You can literally toss your charge pack on top of your tank as you are driving to your next destination. In which case, the solar, it's not radiation, but it will recharge the power pack based on, it just does it for reasons. I'm not entirely sure. It's not solar powered. I think it's just the heat that it absorbs, which reloads the weapon, but I'm not sure. But that being said, it is something you can do. So if you are in an RPG setting and want to reload your weapon, remember those two things. You can toss it into a fire. You can also toss it on top of your tank during long travel. So if you're doing an only war campaign, keep one clip in your weapon at all times and one clip on top of your tank that has been used. Never discard your clips. Also, this gun is worth more than most Imperial troops, but not all. This is something that is commonly misunderstood in the world of Warhammer 40k, is that the weapon is worth more than the person using it. Technically, yes, there is a crystal inside this weapon that uses the heat of the round itself to superheat it so that it fires out a beam of light from the gun itself, which sounds like a crack of thunder. It fires at the speed of light. It's instantaneous. It'll kill things before they even get a chance to react. But that crystal is what's worth more than the person wielding it. But the gun itself, minus that crystal, is not worth too much and can be bought on the black market fairly cheap. I think it's like 100 thrones to get a rifle for just your standard auto pistol, and then it goes up to like 1,000 to get a Lasgun. And Lasguns are seen as, pretty rare in the Underhives. They typically use auto weapons as they manufacture them. But a skilled wielder of a Lasgun will take down an Astartes pretty easily. And I do mean that. There are books for this as well. A disciplined guardsman will be able to take down Chaos Space Marines or even demons with Lasguns and Lasfire. There is one thing that you should never underestimate, and that's the power of the Guard with their laser pointers. And speaking of laser pointers, there's actually an upgrade for your gun itself called a red dot laser sight, which sits on the underside of the barrel itself, right about here, and is a laser pointer that you can follow. It's a laser sight, but it's not actually out of the sight, which is weird. I don't know if the normal one is out of the sight either, so please forgive me. I think it's actually a clip on the side of the weapon itself. Again, I don't know real world guns that much. I wish Sterling was here for that. But that is pretty much everything I wanted to cover about the Lasgun. The reason it's distributed is it can carry more ammunition than the standard auto gun. It can be reloaded faster. It's more stable of a weapon. Its machine species, its machine spirit is nicer, and overall it is an effective combat weapon. The Lasgun is your standard equipment in the world of Warhammer 40k, and is honestly one of my favorite weapons in all of sci-fi. I love any weapon that fires at the speed of light and liquefies it, vaporizes everything that it hits. Oh, it is fun. So if you guys want to know about Warhammer 40k's lore, comment in the comment section down below. There I will look at the most thumbs up comment, or one of the biggest comments, or a comment that, gets me going, and I will reply to it with another video. So if you guys like this video, please comment down below. As always, I'm NornQueenAlexis. I love you guys. Bye.